Hey everyone, today I'm going to be doing a new updated video on the Glowforge UI here. This is going to be basically a walkthrough of all the features of the Glowforge user interface as of today's date is July 12th, 2022. There's been a lot of updates since the beginning, and we're going to just do a real quick walkthrough on everything that's available. If you're a new user or if you're an advanced user, there may be some features that you don't know about. So we're going to go through all of this really quickly so you can know how to upload a design, use the user interface, and go through some premium features as well. So really quickly, this is your new design button here. This is basically if you want a blank canvas, you start out with that. We'll get a little bit more advanced here as it goes along. You have your upload button here. This is going to be uploading a design that you created or you purchased on Etsy or another website from a designer who made it already for you. And then you have the trace button. This is basically if you draw on a piece of paper with a Sharpie, this will trace out that piece of paper that you drew on, and then it'll engrave and print. I've only used this once in my entire life, and that was just to test it out. But if you're an artist and you draw with a Sharpie pretty often, you could use that too. All of these down below are your actual past prints in the most recent order that you've printed them. So you may not have this if you're just starting out, but this will populate pretty fast. I believe this goes away after 30 days if you don't have premium. Otherwise, it stays there forever if you do have premium there. So just to get started, we're going to click on the blank canvas here with a new design. The reason why I'm starting off with this instead of upload, because upload is probably what you're going to be using the most, is I wanted to show you guys a few things here really quick. So if you start off with a blank design here, and then you add like a new design to this, it's going to say that you have no material selected. So we're going to show you how to upload straight from a new design here. So there's two different ways that you can do this. If you have premium, you can just type in a graphic that you want to add, or here's some suggestions right off the bat. You can just click on one of those graphics. For example, here's a little juice jug here. I'm going to click on that. It's adding the artwork, as you can see in the bottom right here. It takes a little bit to upload. And there's the little juice jug there. So that's how you do it from premium. But as you can see, when I added that design, right now there is no setting selected and no material selected. This button right up here is where your material is going to be. So if you're just starting out, a lot of times people don't know that. It just says unknown, so a lot of people don't know what that means. But that is your material selection button. And then these are your settings button. So what you're going to do is you're going to come up here, you're going to select this. You can either click on use uncertified material, or you can select from a list of material that's proof grade. I usually just select from something that's similar, even if I'm using uncertified material, and then I edit the settings from there. And I'll show you that here in just a second. But if you want to go the other way, you can click on use uncertified. You can type in the thickness of your material and then click submit. And then you can select your settings manually. So if you use uncertified material, it's going to say unknown still up here, and then you're going to have to manually set every single option that you need. So if you need to engrave it, you're going to select engrave, and then you're going to click on manual, and you're going to have to change the settings to whatever you want it to be, and you'll have to find those settings manually. And then to basically go through the manual settings, I do have a video on how to basically test for that as well. You can check that out. Anything I talk about, I most likely have a more in-depth video on, so you can always check out my other videos if you need something more in-depth. But basically, you're going to have to manually set all of these, and then we're going to click the back button, and I'm going to show you the proof grade material. So what I do each time is, let's say I have uncertified material. So let's say we have 1/8 inch birch. I usually just come in here and type in maple, and I usually choose the medium maple plywood here because it's the closest thing to birch, and it works perfectly. It works for the engrave, it works for the cut, just as is, and it automatically fills in for your settings. So as you can see, engrave is automatically selected. This is the Glowforge settings. That's why it says Glowforge here. And then it automatically defaults to this standard definition graphic here. And then these are the settings that they use. But let's say, for example, it doesn't cut through your birch for some reason. You can increase the power, or you can decrease the speed, and that will increase your actual cutting depth of your settings there for your material. But you want to be careful, and you want to do some testing, see what works best for you. But like I said, proof grade settings works most of the time for me for a similar based material there. So let's go ahead and delete this premium feature now that we know that's out of the way. I'm going to show you how to do a regular upload now. So you can click this little plus button, and then you can click this upload option here. Right now, since it just opened to this, I'm going to use my micro Christmas tree planter ornament. If you want this design, you can get it on my website, freshstartcustoms.com, or you can find it on Etsy through our shop, Fresh Start Customs. But basically, you can upload like an SVG file, which this is, or what I recommend doing is if you buy from somebody else, is open up their PDF version. So right here's my PDF version. The reason why I recommend this is that way it locks in the settings across platforms. Because if you open it with like Inkscape and it was made in Illustrator, it can scale up or down in size. So let's go ahead and open up this. I'm going to show you what it looks like here. And there you go. You've successfully uploaded a design to your Glowforge user interface. Now all you need to do is change your actual settings, because it's all going to come in as a cut or an engrave. But if you need a score setting, you're going to have to manually change that. So right here, these are going to be scores. I'm going to select that. And then all you got to do is click score. And it'll change it to like a score. So basically a score is just a cut setting that doesn't actually cut through the machine. So it's kind of like an engrave. It's halfway in between an engrave and a cut, but it basically draws out the line to cut it out, but it actually engraves lightly, and it's not actually cutting through the machine or through the material there. So hopefully that makes sense. I do have a more in-depth video on what the difference between a cut and engrave and a score is, and how you can flip between those settings. So check that out as well. So now that we have this uploaded, literally all you'd have to do is, if you had your sheet of material in here, it would show up instead of this black section because I have my machine off. And then you can click on these three dots and click on set focus. And after you click set focus, you would click anywhere on the physical material. It would focus your laser head, and then you would click print over here in the top right corner, and it would print off your material. And then you're all set. That would basically print off your first design that you've ever uploaded. And so now that we showed you how to upload, print, and you're good to go there. Like I said, if you need a more in-depth video on this, I do have multiple videos on all of these topics individually. I know I'm going kind of fast here, but there's a lot to cover. So we're going to go through some of these other settings here. So starting from left to right, we have the zoom feature. So this can zoom out or can zoom in. So if you want to see your material more. And if you're noticing, while I'm zoomed in, I can't move over to the top here. Right now, that's because I'm on my selection tool. You can grab this little hand here, and it's the pan tool. So I can pan up over here, or I can pan back down, whatever I need to do. That's what this hand tool is for. I'm going to zoom back out to 100% and line this back up to the edge here. And so that's basically all three of those features out of the way. Right here is your undo button. So let's say I move this tree. Whoops, I'm still on that hand. You got to go back to the selection tool if you didn't do that. But let's say you move this tree here. If I want to undo that, you just click undo. And then if I want to redo it, you can click redo. There you go. So now that we got those four out of the way, you've already seen this plus button. This is going to be what you use the most to upload with if you don't have a design already. You You can upload here, or you have that trace feature that I talked about earlier where you draw on the piece of paper with a Sharpie there. And then you have all of your premium features here. So, and you do have the ability to favorite them by clicking these little stars here. So you can favorite an actual item that you find. Right here, you can search for a graphic just like one of these. So if you type in dog, it'll show a bunch of pictures of dogs. I do have a more in-depth video on this one as well. So if you want to see that, check that out too. Here's another premium feature. This is called shapes or insert shapes. You can insert lines, squares, circles, stars, polygons, anything that you want. We're just going to click on a star. As you can see, it uploaded to our design here, and you can edit it as need be. So if you need a different number of points, your sharpness, round corners, etc., you can do that here. Now that we have this uploaded, we're going to take a break from the top here. I'm going to get back to that in just a second. But while we have this selected, I'm going to show you all of this on the right-hand side here. I do have a video for each of these two that's a little bit more in depth. But if you want to create an outline, you can just click on this to create an outline. And you can just click the little plus button there. It'll create your outline for you. As you can see right there, it created an outline of that star. You can do like a flip. So if you need this to be flipped, it would flip that way. Or I'm going to flip that back. Right now, just the outside is selected. So you can select all of them and you can flip them all together instead of just that outside here. You can flip horizontally. Obviously, you're not going to see much of a difference there. And then you can turn it into a puzzle, or you can make a stamp out of your designs too. I've got both of those selected too in a different video. Those are really in depth, so you can check that out in another video if you want to there. Lastly, we have our text on here before we get to our more options here. So this is our text option here. You can click on text. It's going to automatically drop some example text here. And you can type whatever you want there. Right now it just says your text here. We're going to leave it like that. You can change like the different font styles of the text there. You can get in depth with like if you want it bold, regular, etc. I think you guys get the point here, but you can do the alignment, the size, spacing, everything like that. Let's just make it a lot bigger here so you can see what's going on. If you go back into the text field here, you can do a lot of those edits straight from here, or give you different examples of what's available. And we'll just go like this. And then you have a couple different options here. You have like pattern lines. You have that we didn't get to cover before. If you click on pattern lines, this gives you different options for like repeating shapes. So let's say we want this little vine pattern here, or let's go with flowers actually. We'll just go with flowers and we're going to click create a pattern here. This is going to create a pattern line. Alright, so as you guys can see, it tried to create a pattern line, but since I was on text, it went through around the actual text. So we wouldn't want this on text. Let me show you a better example here. I'm going to undo that. Let's go ahead and just go back to our outside star here. We're going to click on that pattern line on the outside star, and then we're going to do repeating patterns. And this time, let's go ahead and we're going to just do a shape here. Let's say we're going to do this here. We're going to click create pattern, and as you can see, it created a pattern out of that line here. So that's a better example of what it can do. But you can go through and you can select anything that you want there. And let's say we want a seamless pattern, and we're going to do those flowers again that we talked about. We're going to select the flowers. And as you can see, it is now a row of flowers all the way around that star here. So that's a lot better example than this text, since it was using the text path and I didn't have an actual outline around the text. So that's repeating patterns. I do have a full separate video on that as well. Now we're going to get into some of the important more options here under this little three dots here. So with this, you can refresh your bed image if for some reason you lifted it, or if you have your your Glowforge Pro and you shifted your material without lifting the lid, you can refresh the bed image if you need to. Set focus is going to be your most important thing that you're going to use the most here. This is going to be every single time before you print your design off, you're going to click on the three dots, you're going to click set focus, and you're going to click on your material. That's going to set your focus height of your material. That way it prints in the correct area. If you don't do that and it doesn't set focus properly, then your cut out, so let's say this star could actually cut out like over here a little bit because it's not in focus. So that's going to be your most important thing. I do have a separate video on this. Like I said, I've got separate videos more in depth for pretty much everything here. Align to snap mark was a beta feature that was back in the day. They used to have snap markers. I never really used it that much. I think I did do a video on it while it still existed. Right now, I don't think that really exists for the most part. I know it still shows up here. And then you have to submit a design to the catalog. That's basically if you want to be a catalog designer, you can sign up to be one of those. And then you have like design details. This is going to be like if you are using a premium design. It has like instructions that you can find there. You can also export your design. So let's say I wanted to export this design just like this. Now that I added my star and text here, you can actually export this design and save it as an SVG file. And then you can upload it at a later date. Your past prints will show you like past info that you did, kind of like the undo button where you can go in the past. It's kind of like a time machine for Mac backup in a way. I think that's a premium feature, but I could be wrong on that. So you could check that out if you don't have premium, see if that works. And then you also have your preferences. I'm going to click on this. I did a video recently on this. This is basically to change like the default colors of your design here. So right now we have it on default. You can change to like high contrast. As you can see, that made it a little bit brighter and easier to see. And you can go to, you can change like your snap strength if you want to. I'm not going to change that. And then if you want your line thickness to be more visible instead of more precise, you can turn that on. As you can see, it got even brighter now. I'm going to exit out and just show you guys what it looks like now. As you can see, it's a lot easier to see, but since we turned on more visible and less precise, the lines are a little bit thicker. So it's not going to show you exactly where it's going to land. But you do have that option if you have a hard time seeing the default option here. Lastly, you got these two other options. So if you do centimeters instead of inches, you can just flip that over. I use inches. And then the Glowforge air filter attached. So this is going to be if you have a Glowforge air filter or an external fan like a lot of people use. You would actually turn this on if you use either of those functions. So what that's going to do is that's going to turn off your back fan of the Glowforge, and it's going to be using the fan of the air filter or the external infinity fan, and that's going to pull the air through your machine for you using the external fans there. So that's pretty important. If you do use a filter or an external fan, you got to turn that on. Right now I'm just using the internal fan of my Glowforge of this one. The one upstairs does have this on. So that is all of the different features. I'm going to turn this back to default for me. There we go. But yeah, those are all the different features of your Glowforge user interface. So I hope this helped you guys out. If you're new, I think you'll benefit from this a lot, because if you've never used the machine before, it's always nice to know what to do and not be just thrown in the dark there. If you guys need more help on this, I do have a lot of different videos. You can also go back to your dashboard by clicking dashboard up here. And then they have a lot of helpful tips and tricks and more information on the bottom right hand corner here. So read some of those over. If you don't have a Glowforge yet, check out the description below. I do have a referral link to save you up to $500 off of a machine. Other than that, it's been Josh with Fresh Start Customs, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.